welcome back to my channel, and welcome to another installment in the palettes I would buy from insert brand if either I liked the brand, either if I had money to burn, or all sorts of reasons why. I have done quite a few companies thus far. We've touched on Morphe, we've touched on Too Faced, we've touched on Urban Decay, we've touched on Glamlite at this point. And today we are finally going to be tackling that big giant elephant in the makeup room that happens to be Colourpop. This is a very interesting sort of point of view to be coming from because, as you all know, or if you don't know now, or if you didn't know then, you know now, Colourpop is a company that to me is a true double-edged sword. There's the part of me that absolutely loves the products that I love. The monochromatics are some of my end-all be-all absolute favorite palettes. Some of their blushes are some of my absolute end-all be-all favorite blushes. But within that same breath, they are also the company that probably gives me the largest headache because they are most definitely the company that releases the most pointless shiz. They release so much stuff, they do so much intellectual collaborations and all of this shiz that it just becomes too much. So while on the one hand I enjoy them and I absolutely love the products that I like, they also give me a huge freaking headache. Because not only do they release a lot of stuff, they release a lot of stuff that in my mind, in my opinion, allegedly, are stuff that's just released for the sake of it being released. There isn't a lot of substance, there isn't a lot of thought, there isn't a lot of care. It's really just done in sort of the fast fashion way of needing to have a significant amount of turnover. And one of you actually did comment on one of my videos that they have in fact stated that they want to be the fast fashion company, makeup company of the beauty community, which to me is all sorts of levels of problematic, especially since I've distanced myself from fast fashion, which is one of the main contributors to our absolutely horrible textile footprint. When you take a makeup company that says they want to do the exact same thing, I don't think it's a model that we should want to emulate, but we'll get more into that later. I'm going to be breaking Colourpop down into two videos. This particular video, we are going to be focusing on the palettes I would buy from them that are currently available on their site. We're just dealing with what they got right now. In the next video is when I'm going to be delving back, going far deep into the recesses of Colourpop history and talking about the palettes that I would buy from them that were much later releases, and while also be giving commentary, probably doing in contrast to what products they were releasing versus the stuff that they're selling us now. With these videos, I kind of want to tend to do a little bit more than, ooh, I'd buy this palette, ooh, I'd buy this palette. You all know that one of my favorite things is brand analyzation and brand breakdown. So whilst talking about palettes that I would like to buy, some that I actually plan on buying, I think it's also interesting to take that and then look at it as a company. Look at where they started to where they are now. I'm sure I'm gonna get a little bit kind of into some things today, but I would like to leave the majority bulk of, like, I don't know, me raging for the second video, though I'm sure there's gonna be some in that today. So don't you worry, you will get your dose of Colourpop rhetoric. Not really anti-consumeristic rhetoric because I'm talking about palettes that I would buy. Although some are palettes that I would buy that I'm like, I'm not gonna buy, and some are like, when I have money, you're gonna be in my hot little hands. So, with that said, and without further ado, let's talk about the palettes that are currently available on Colourpop's site that I would buy. And we're gonna start with one that I don't think is on their site anymore. I know Colourpop has this thing where if things are out of stock sometimes, they won't even show up on the page. Like, you'll have to type it in to find it. I've had to do that with a couple of different things that I've wanted to link and stuff like that. But one of their larger palettes, probably the one that I would want to buy the most because I have the two first ones, and then they came out with the Cold Stone Fox, which is this beautiful glorious, fantastic array of cool tone neutrals. I was sort of standoffish to cool tones. It just wasn't really something that I did. And then insert Jeffree Star cremated palette, I kind of discovered my love for said cool tones. So when they released this, I was like, look at that, look at that, look at that. I believe I anti-hauled it because, I mean, I anti-haul the majority of what Colourpop, you know, releases. I actually had quite a few of you say, ooh, you should get this one. I know you anti-haul dashes, but this one's actually really nice quality. It's got nice colors. This is one that if I had, like, you know, because I don't know if any of y'all know now, I have a job, I'm employed. It's great. The financial burden of this channel has been lifted, so hopefully we'll have more content and I'll look happier. But, you know, if I had, like, you know, like in my little, you know, me fund and whatever, if I was like, all right, I feel like, you know, a palette that I'd like to get, I would probably be tempted to this one. I could probably talk myself out of it because now I do have the cool tone neutrals. I've got my Glam palette from Natasha Denona. I'm sure I've got other cool tone neutrals. It wouldn't be something that I'm lacking, but I also think that it would be something that might boost my collection just a little bit, if for nothing else that it's got so many stinking shades in it. So definitely on all these palettes, let me know down below if you would actually recommend them, because I don't want to be buying nothing that ain't actually good. And Colourpop, let's be real, is another one of those companies that tends to flip-flop with quality. Okay, let's talk about something that's we started, we had the neutrals, we had the cool tones, we had that going on, but then this is a much more recent release that I wish they had actually taken these little palettes and turned it into a whole shebang bang. They'd just gone balls to the wall and create a whole palette, though I can understand why they're done like that. And this is the Party Like It's Y2K palettes. And y'all, I am a color lover. You all know I love me a monochromatic matchy moment. If I'm wearing blue, I like wearing blue. Pink, I like it. Purple, green, the whole 9 yards. And when I'm not dressing more dour and gothic and whatever, I do actually have kind of like a Harajuku anime girl Lolita vibe going on, which I haven't showcased as much on my channel, but there is that part of me that really likes those kinds of colors. And looking at it, I'm just like, I mean, there is also just the freaking nostalgia and the fact that Y2K is now like a nostalgia thing. It's old enough for it to be like an aesthetic. I can't tell you how many I've seen on Mercari, I've seen on Poshmark. They're selling this stuff and they're like, ooh, Y2K. And I'm just like, I lived through that. And now all the terrible, awful, tacky clothing I wore through that is now collectible. Kind of an interesting feeling to now know that you are in fact vintage. I mean, don't even get me started on the 90s. That is a whole thing. But anyway, I just honestly really like the look of these. I love just as much as I don't like, not all of them to me, the 5-pan palettes, they're just maybe a little bit too small, which is why I would buy all 3 of them, because I think, excuse me, burp squad. I think that the 3 together make for a more cohesive color story layout, in my opinion, at least for how I like to do my makeup and what I know I like, than just buying them singularly, because I'm not the type of person who just takes one color and kind of washes it over my lid, adds a little bit of shimmer, and then I'm done. If that's how you do your makeup, that's absolutely fantastic. I would not call my makeup routine or my makeup technique complex. I'm not beaut being all up in here. Take the one shade and then I deepen it out, and if I'm feeling a little extra frisky, we'll go in with a 3rd color to really deepen that shiz out. Shimmer and we're done. And an inner corner highlight. But just all in all, looking at these colors, it kind of, and maybe part of it is, it's kind of like I look at it and I'm like, I would totally buy it. And then there's a part of me that's like, I still know why I haven't, or I would potentially not, is because as much as I say I have that bubblegummy, pastel-y, bright colored side to me, it's not a side of me that I do a lot. I tend to do this more often than that. So looking at these, I'm like, oh, the purple's so pretty. Oh, the pink's so pretty. And oh, the other color they had, I think it was a mint something something. I look at those and they're pretty. And don't get me wrong, they are pretty. But then I think, but how often do you reach for those kind of colors? Because I have those kind of colors in my collection. I've got all that kind of colors in my Jeffree Star freaking Jawbreaker palette. I got other bright colors. I even got some of those from Colourpop even already. And so there's the part of me that's like, I'd really like to try that shiz out. I'd really like to see what it's all about. But at the same time, I'm just like, how realistic are those colors actually coming in to your collection? This would truly be a, if I had money to burn, if I had money to just kind of throw at some makeup, this is something I would like to try. It's not something that I'm significantly hard pressed for. It's not something that I'm like, my collection would benefit 100-fold from this, which is where I'm trying to be with my makeup, or at least it would benefit at least 50%. Because let's be real, when you have as much makeup as I do, comes to a point where no matter, it's not adding that much more. I've got a lot. But these I just saw and I was like, I remember seeing the release on Trend Mood and being like, oh, those are cute. Those are throwbacky. Those are all like whatever. Those would be fun because as much as I'd like to say I'm a swipe one and done, I've seen people do pretty looks with like a shimmer all over the whatever. And I'm like, I would like to do that. And then I never do. I'm an old person who's stuck in my routine. Then in the same vein, and as much as I would like to buy these, I will admit I probably won't because I'm pretty sure it was Angelica Nyquist who said they weren't very good quality because I'm pretty sure I anti-hauled them and I was like, oh, when I first saw these, I was like, oh, aghast, the colors were so beautiful. And then one of y'all or a couple of y'all were like, she kind of said they weren't really up to par. And I really trust Angelica's opinion when it comes to makeup. I mean, I trust her opinion when it comes to just anything she talks about. I'm like, yes, queen, I love you. I'm a real simp for her, just straight up. But these are the, I don't know what the collection is called, but the rumor has it, Cashmere Forever and High Society. And y'all know that the High Society one, the green one, is the one that really pulled me. And it honestly, all three of them, because unlike the Y2K, and this is kind of how my brain thinks, because I was thinking, I'm like, the Y2K stuff, with this bomb diggity shiznit. If the quality of these were actually any type of good, which I have no idea, let me know down below if you've experienced it. But these ones are like the Y2K, rich, decadent, bright, you know, just very vibrant. It's like they're cousins or they're siblings. Y'all know if you want to get my way in whatever kind of way, just pop a green in there. It doesn't even have to be multiple. Just pop one green in there and I am guaranteed to at least look at it twice. I may then say it's stupid like that one Viseart palette that was like neutrally with an orange and a pop of green, but I'll at least give it a second glance. And this has 5 greens. Not only does this have 5 greens, they're 5 greens that look really, really pretty together. I just look at it and I'm like, oh yeah. Because I love green. Y'all know this. Green is my shiz. It's my end-all be-all favorite color. And I love green eyeshadow. I got green eyebrows right now. And then I believe it was the Cashmere Forever was the really pretty dark purpley one. And honestly, what kept me from buying these, other than them being, excuse me, burp squat again. Because of all the talking, I'm swallowing a lot of air. But if I'm being completely honest, are these, you know, purple, I think pink or fuchsia, magenta, and green 5-pan palettes really that different from the monochromatic palettes, which if they're phasing those out, because I didn't see a lot of them when I was scrolling through the palettes. Maybe they're sold out. I don't know if they're phasing those. If they're phasing them out, yeah, sure, all right, whatever. I mean, not happy about that. But are they really that different from the, you know, Just My Luck or the Lilac You a Lot, It's My Pleasure, the pink one? You know, is there really that much difference in the 5-pan to the 9 pan? I don't think so. Maybe I'm dumb. Maybe I don't understand. I'm going to have someone down in the comments that's like, well, even if they are the same colors, what if someone doesn't want to buy the 9 pan palette? Okay, I understand that. There isn't that much of a price point difference between the 5 pan and the 9 pan. So in my uneducated opinion, I would just get the 9 pan. So I look at these and they're pretty and they do that cute little embossing on like one of the shades. And I'm like, ooh boy, that's some cute looking shiz. But I did hear that Angelica didn't like the quality, and I really trust her, and I especially trust her on Colourpop because she's been talking about Colourpop since Colourpop was just super shock shadows. Okay, let's talk about some intellectual property licensed collaborations, because let's be honest, as much as I love tearing this shiz a new one, there is that part of me that does enjoy them, some of them. And we might as well talk about the Hello Kitty 4 pan palettes, which I anti-hauled. Let's just be straight to the point. They're cute. They're adorable. They're Hello Kitty. I wouldn't even buy these. Yes, the colors are kind of okay. There are some colors that I'd use. We got the pinks and the purples, and one of them's like orange, and one of them's like bright sunshine yellow. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can work with that. If I had all of them, I'd work with them together, but in reality, it's because they're Hello Kitty. I mean, that's the real thing. Because I don't know if any of you know, but I absolutely love Hello Kitty. I have loved Hello Kitty ever since I was like 6. I remember going into this store, this toy store called G. Willikers as a child, and going to the Hello Kitty section before it was all kinds of whatever in America and all that shiz was imported, and looking at like one thing and it being $37 and my brain not even being able to comprehend the idea of $37. You know, I'm like, I have 50 cents, what you got? So Hello Kitty has a long-lasting place in my heart. And quite honestly, if they're still there by Christmas, I may buy them for my nieces who absolutely love Hello Kitty and love playing in makeup. The best of both worlds. But like I said, in all honesty, I probably would get some use out of them because, you know, they're small, they're compact, they're four color eyeshadow palettes. I could, trade them in and out and do whatever, but in the grand scheme of things, I would be purchasing them for the sole fact that they are Hello Kitty. And I am a trash gremlin that likes collecting things that I don't actually need. Cue absolutely all of the Sailor Moon Colourpop stuff. Cue the other thing Hello Kitty that I bought already. I mean, I know I'm talking about palettes in this video, but if we're going to be talking about something that I'd want to buy just to collect, how about blushes? That right there is the real temptation. I actually went and I looked at them. I got a couple in my cart and I'm like, girl, you don't need it. You don't need to put it back. Put it back. You don't need it. And in all honesty, I don't need these Hello Kitty 4 pan palettes either. But there's a part of me that's like, they're Hello Kitty. They're cute. They're adorable. You could put them somewhere. But in all honesty, I've got so much stuff that I could put somewhere, and I'm trying to make some space for some spooky shiz. But there is that part of me that really would like them. And if we're talking about that part of me that would really like it on a licensing level, is the Powerpuff Girls palette. I was gonna anti-haul this because I was like, it's another licensing, whatever. But in all honesty, actually looking at it, it's not that bad of a palette. You know, I always talk about, they do these licensing collaborations and the palette has nothing to do with what they're collabing with. And this one looks good. It's bright. It's fun, it's punky, not punky, is it? Punchy, that's the right word. We got the row of greens, we got the row of pinky reddies, we got the row of blues. You could very clearly and obviously see what is it in collaboration with. I appreciate that in this release. I also love the fact that the blushes have heart-shaped pans because I'm a freaking sucker for that shiz. Yes, Too-Faced, I'm looking at you and thinking of all the heart-shaped blushes I have in my drawers that you don't even make anymore, coincidentally. But back to this. It looks like something that's really fun. This is honestly one of the first, or at least most recent collaborations that they've done that didn't make me roll my eyes right out of my head. Because usually I find out that they're doing some sort of collaboration or some sort of something. I'm just like, it's gonna be dumb. It's gonna be stupid. It's gonna be underthought. It's gonna be the bare minimum. And this one, while not like blowing my mind and not necessarily being a color story that I'm like, oh yeah, F me up, blue, green, and pink. Okay, all right. I know I'd get hella use out of the green. I know I'd get use out of the red and the pinky, whatever. The blue, I do blue once in a blue moon, and I really like it, and I tell myself you should do blue more often. It looks really good, and then I never do it. It's just green is my shtick, green and red. But I had to mention it because I love the Powerpuff Girls, and this is how they get you. This is what I say every time. They do these collaborations with these disgustingly nostalgic things that tug on our heartstrings and make our like inner child ache. It's like, I want that, you know. It's like with the Hocus Pocus, and it's with the, you know, the Powerpuff Girls and the Hello Kitty, you know. It makes that inner child of you think, I'm an adult, but I love this shiz. This is an absolutely perfect way for me to mix the two together. It's just absolutely perfect. And so it's kind of like I said, I know I'd get use out of the green and the red and whatever, but aside from the Powerpuff, it's kind of like not necessarily something that would be a truly dynamic and a very much reached for palette in my collection. If we're being completely honest, it would probably mostly get pulled for the green. And that makes up like, what, 35% of the palette? Which at this point, even though I have a job and I do have money, that kind of don't math enough for me. But I guess I kind of wanted to put it on here because it's one of those like collection things that I would like to indulge in. I would like to massage my child fantasies. But in reality, it probably wouldn't get that much use. It's just kind of, you know, it's there. I appreciate the effort that they actually made. The blushes might actually happen. Then we're gonna talk about one that I anti-hauled, but I prefaced in that anti-haul that I was like, I'm anti-hauling it because I have no money. None. Zip. The bank is dry. But if I had money, I would like to purchase. And there's a part of me that's like, I still might like to, but probably more I'll just get the blushes to get a taste of the collection rather than the palette. Because the palette, while being pretty, this is the Lizzie McGuire installment, which Abby Williams said it best when she said that the Lizzie McGuire palette is basically the Sailor Moon palette with a deep saturation. I mean, looking at it, your girl ain't wrong, but it still makes for a better palette than the Sailor Moon palette. Because as much as I love that shiz for being Sailor Moon, it's actually a pretty underwhelming palette, color story-wise as well as quality-wise. So, entering in the Lizzie McGuire palette, it takes that color story and makes it a lot more interesting. Makes it look like something that I actually look at it and I think, I could do something with that. I could make some cute looks with that, because that's when I know a palette actually has my attention. When I look at it and I look at the colors and I see the layout and everything, and I actually make up in my mind different eye looks that I would do. If we have one, that's great. If I can make 2 and 3, that palette's like, boom, I want that shiz in my hands right now. And then you have, again, the nostalgia, the absolute marketing of it all with being Lizzie McGuire. I mean, that's why I get so frustrated with Colourpop and their collaborations, because they ain't even picking anything difficult to collaborate. They're like, all right, we need cult following favorites. We're gonna take this shiz and we're just gonna slap some shadows in a palette, put some nice imagery on it, and sell it, and it's gonna sell out every time. And the majority of it, it does. Although I do feel like we are getting just a little bit burnt out with all the massive Colourpop releasing, because there are a couple collaborations that I saw on the site while I was flipping through, and I'm like, that's still in stock. That's been out for a while. That's still in stock, which I find kind of funny, although in a terrible sort of way, when you have these collaborations that are still in stock, and then you had the Sailor Moon one that they couldn't keep in stock for 8 months after it was released. Still just a little salty about that. Not entirely, because I ended up getting the majority of it on sale in the end, but it's just a little interesting the way that stock sometimes goes, depending on the release. But no, the Lizzie McGuire palette is cute, but once again, kind of like the Powerpuff Girls thing, I see it, and it's cute, and if I had it, I would use it. I would probably be more likely, and I would definitely use those blushes, which someone pointed out that, quite frankly, it's a little bit true that the Animal Crossing blushes, the second Hello Kitty blushes, the Lizzie McGuire ones, and the Powerpuff Girl ones were all really similar shades. And I understand they were all very bright and vibrant and poppy collections, but they were all these like straight up like, whoo, like really intense color, like Soraya of 2013 would have been all over that shit, just all over my face. Although, while I still like a pretty good bit of blush, I've learned how to apply and what to apply. But in all honesty, if I do end up just throwing some money at Colourpop for these collaborations, it's probably going to end up being the blushes. But another collaboration that I'm actually interested in, the palette is probably the only thing that interests me in this collection, and that's the Tinkerbell collection. But you guys probably know why this is a thing, why this is even entertaining any amount of thought in my brain, and that's because it's got green in it. It's got like 4, maybe 5 green eyeshadows. And once again, it's kind of like falls under the I've seen them, I have them, I own a lot of green. But there is always that part of me is like, well, even if I have all this green, I can't possibly have all the green that's available. There's got to be something out there that I don't have that would help complete and round out my green eyeshadow collection. There's always that thought going on in my mind that every time I see a green palette or some kind of green eyeshadow, some insidious pop of green, I think to myself, oh, but do I have that particular shade of green? And this palette, because it's less of a pop and more of like half of the palette, and I actually kind of like the rosy tones within the palette paired with the green, I'm like, that's cute. That's cute. I would wear that. I would use that. There's a part of me that kind of really wants to get it. So potentially in the future, after I've got a couple paychecks under my belt and after I buy spooky shiz, which is where the paychecks, not all of them, bills and shiz, but the money that I get to spend on myself, it's going to spooky shiz until spooky shiz is over. I mean, spooky shiz is never over, but you know what I mean. I might have to maybe make a little bit of a Colourpop order, and that's probably gonna have this palette. Let me know about all this shiz, the blushes and everything. If y'all have it and have tried it and recommend it or don't recommend it, let me know. I don't want to buy this shiz if it's not good. I'm just beyond that point. It's not happening. But this, it's just, look at it, look at it. I'm not a Tinkerbell person, but boy do I love. And I like it also because it's a palette that at least resembles the theme of the collaboration they're doing. I'm like, well, thank God for that. I have to give them money in that sense. I have to be like, yes, this is a positive. This I want to see. I will give you money for doing something good. Although I'm not sure about giving Colourpop money just because of like the whole fast fashion thing, but that's probably something we're going to get into later. Okay. Let's talk about one that you all know. That when I do make that Colourpop order in however long, there's going to be one particular palette that is definitely going to be within that order, and that is the High Tide palette, which is everything I could possibly want in a monochromatic 9-pan aqua-y, greeny bluey palette. I have a wig that I am dying, absolutely dying to wear with this palette. It is just, it needs to happen. I need to use that and make me an aqua bluey, smoky eye, so I could be a beautiful blue smoky sea witch. This is simply something that needs to and will happen at some point in my life. When that palette was released, I was like, have the anti-wallet, because I didn't have the money to buy it. But we have a job, we have money, it will be mine. Then we might might as well end on some kind of more simple palettes, although they are kind of what I would consider redundant amidst the Colourpop universe. See, that's part of it. When a brand starts duping itself, I'm like, you probably got enough on the market, okay? It's enough slices, Colourpop. And that would be the Cherry Crush, because when I talked about it, I'm like, is it really that much different from the Main Squeeze and the Strawberry Shake palettes? Probably not. Like I said, I don't know if Colourpop is planning on discontinuing the 9-pan palettes that they have, because if there is, I need to buy about 12 of the green one. I really do. And the red one. There are quite a few in there that I use very consistently, that if I run out and they don't have, I'm going to be very upset. But like I said, if I have money to just throw in whatever, I'd see the Cherry Crush be like monochromatic red. Boom, you mine. And then kind of sort of in the same vein, not in reds, but these two kind of go together, we have the Wild Child, which I like nudes. I like these kind of nudes. I like these deep, dark, rich, decadent nudes. This is what I like. And it's very similar to the Brown Sugar palette that I have, which apparently I had no idea was a collaboration palette. When I think I hauled it or talked about it, or it was a favorite of mine, and a couple of y'all were like, they don't have it anymore. And it's like, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I thought it was just a brown version of their monochromatic palette, but it is of the monochromatic palettes, but it is just, the Brown Sugar one is just so just beautiful. And so this one, which is the Wild Child, also, it even says it's like dark, beautiful, dark hues. We are inclusive. Please support us. But it was just, that's the closest I've seen as like to the Brown Sugar one. And I think it's just really, really pretty. I like having those nice, dark and rich tones for when I want to do something that's more neutral, but is neutrals that are up my alley, which are neutrals with really high contrast. You guys know, like this is like this was the Rust palette from Melt Cosmetics. That's the kind of neutrals I go for. Neutrals. I mean, I don't feel bad calling this shiz neutral, because Urban Decay was calling the Ultraviolet palette all full of neutrals. So if purple's a neutral, this can be a neutral. But looking at that one, I was like, oh, that one's so pretty. And I love using the Going Coconuts along with the Brown Sugar, because one thing that's nice about it is the Going Coconuts one, I think, has one or two kind of pasty setting shades, whereas the Brown Sugar one skips the pasty setting shades and gives us some nice color to start off with. And so they pair really nicely together. And kind of going in to pairing nicely together is the Totally Nude collection. Now, this to me is as basic gets. I am basic in many ways. I absolutely love pumpkin spice. I am most definitely not a live, laugh, love unless it's in the back of my Dragula. But when I saw these, it was sort of the whole is greater than the parts, in my opinion. You know, it's not the parts are greater than the whole. Because I look at all of these and all of these nice little pretty 4-pan palettes. I'm like, oh, look, they're kind of cute. But together, we could be an absolute powerhouse of neutral creativity. I was just like, oh, on their own, not so much, but together, just the whole spectrum. I was like, which honestly, quite frankly, if I have the Bare Necessities by Colourpop, and if I get the Stone Cold Fox, there is absolutely no freaking way in any universe that I would need these. I think a part of it does have to do with packaging and presentation. If there's one thing Colourpop is doing, is making things look very appealing to my magpie eyes. I mean, it's real easy to make things look appealing to me. Like I said, you had to pop a green to something and I'm at least gonna look at it. But like I said, honestly, seeing all of, because I was just scrolling through and they have all the singles and all the whatevers. The 4-pan palettes do nothing for me. One of y'all said that it was actually a poll that Colourpop took that was like, oh, what do you want to see? And everyone was like, I did not participate in that poll. I would not have voted for the 4-pan palettes. I mean, give me 9-pan palettes, monochromatic. But these ones, the 5-pan palettes, 5-pan palettes are at least somewhat intriguing. And then it was really the bundle that did it for me because you had them all singly. I'm like, okay, that's a nice shade of brown. That's a nice red tone. That's a nice rich something something. And then they put them all together and I was like, aha, there it is, which also kind of shows the redundancy of them, because if you have the big one, I understand that like these are for people who don't have the big one and who like just the straight up simple 5 shades. You're good to go, you know, and that's typically not me, but seeing them all together as a family, and that's always been my thing. You know, I've always bought whole lines of highlighters, whole lines of blushes. For whatever reason, the family has to stay together. I don't know if it's my childhood trauma, my religious trauma, whatever it is, but for whatever reason, I'm very attracted to sets. It's kind of just one of my issues. But we have actually reached the end of this particular video. There is going to be, as I said, a part 2. We touched on some of Colourpop's problematic. We have touched on some of Colourpop's problematic issues, which, let's be honest, there are quite a few. I feel that Colourpop as a company have come a very long way from a lot of the values and a lot of just what their brand was in the beginning. Because you gotta understand, they used to be an indie company. They were like, oh, Colourpop single shadows. And now, I mean, not saying the Super Shock shadows. I mean, they didn't even start when they first started and they released those like 5-pan palettes. I mean, maybe they're just going back to their roots, which would be nice, but still with every single release, they come farther and farther away from themselves. And I definitely want to delve deeper into just the whole evolution of Colourpop. So we've talked about today a lot of modern things that I would and probably will spend my money on at some point. As I said, let me know down below if you've tried any of these and your absolute honest opinions about them. And in the next video, we will go back in time to Colourpop of aeons past, which is going to be quite the undertaking because they release so much. Didn't used to be like that. Did it used to be like that? But going back just this year and last year, going back the next 2.5 years is going to be very interesting. And we will discuss all of that in part 2. I would love to hear y'all's opinion. I would love to hear what you have to say about Colourpop. I know a lot of you have hit the perpetual snooze button on Colourpop because they do release so much, and like I said, a lot of it just isn't that interesting. Like I said, when you start duping yourself out and releasing the same stuff over and over again, you know, you're not going to keep anyone's attention for an extended period of time. Release less and put more thought into what you release, maybe. But no, because we're going to be the fast fashion of the beauty community, or the beauty industry, whatever they want to say. But thank you guys so much for watching. I love you. And as always, keep it real.